Hello, welcome to today's learning activity. So today what we are going to do is we are going to learn how to Dockerize an app. Like I said in an interview, they're going to ask you about Docker, how to Dockerize an application. But there are two ways to do that. So either you're going to build a CI/CD pipeline for that, or you're going to use a Docker Hub to Dockerize the application. By Dockerize the application, I mean you're moving or you're migrating application from a static server or Linux server or a regular server to a container, to a Docker container to be able to make the application very scalable, very available, and also very easy to manage. So most companies are really moving to Docker and the Kubernetes container, but this is a Docker lesson, they will be doing Kubernetes later. So you're learning how to move application to a Docker server or Dockerize an application. So the scenario is your team is developing a timetable app. So they want to switch to containers to operate the program in production. So the app will be built in a Docker image, and the team will also use Docker file to also do the app. So, but then also we want to refresh our what Docker. We're going to look at Docker file, Docker image, and what container is. But then we're going to do it by step by step. So the task, the first thing is to create a Docker file for the application. So it says fork this source code of GitHub. So what now we're going to create a Docker file. The first thing is fork this the source code on GitHub. So let's pick out the code. This is the code. Put the code here. We're going to fork this first and make it our own. Wait, fork. As we know why we fork on the repository to make this code our own now so we can work on it. Now, just like Jenkins file, we use Jenkins file. It contains all the steps to build application. So Jenkins it communicates with Jenkins how to build application. The same way in Docker, we use Docker file. Docker file contains all the steps needed to build application. So we're going to add file and create a new file. Also, just like Jenkins, we named a Jenkins file that contains all the steps, but this is going to be named Docker file. So Docker can pick it from our GitHub. So Docker file. And we have our Docker file script here. Copy here. Paste it here. But before we go on, let's look at what Docker file is. Look at this note. In the layman terms, right? Think of a Docker file as a recipe for baking a cake. We want to bake a cake, and we have like a book which contains a recipe to bake this cake. So the instructions, give me a minute, I need to put this on charge. So look at Docker file as a recipe for baking a cake, right? Think of Docker file as a recipe for baking a cake. So it contains a step-by-step instruction on how to create a Docker image, much like a recipe or steps for baking a cake. So the ingredients, these ingredients include what ingredients, software, the files and settings that are needed to build an application. So you build an application, you need the files, the settings, the dependencies. So you put that in a Docker file. So the Docker file or the recipe might say, hey, bake this, add some chocolate, bake this at 350 degrees. That's the recipe. So the Docker image also, the Docker file, sorry, also contains all the steps needed to build your application. It's like a recipe. Just like Jenkins file also contains all the steps needed to build the application. The same way Docker file contains, it's like a recipe book, contains all the instructions needed to build the application, contains all the dependencies, how to build the application. So once you follow the recipe, that's the Docker file, you have made a Docker image. So once you follow the recipe, or once you write a Docker file, you've written a Docker image. So after creating a Docker file and putting everything in the Docker file, you've written a Docker image. You understand? So let's continue. It says the snapshot. It's a snapshot for everything needed to run a specific application, just like a pre-made cake has all the ingredients baked in it. You can carry this pre-made cake anywhere. So the Docker file, you can carry it anywhere. You can give my Docker file to anybody. They're going to run the Docker file. It's going to create an image, and they can run an image to get a container. So a Docker image may be ready to go environment for running a web server. So once we create our Docker file and we run our Docker file, we have an image. And once we run our image, we have a container. So look at Docker container. So Docker container, like it's a slice of cake. When you want to save the cake, you cut a slice. That's a Docker container. So after building the image, right? After building the image, now you have a container. So take it like as we are building a cake. So once you have the cake, you can cut a slice of it, and that slice is called a container. So after we build the application, we can have the different part of application that's different containers making a whole application. So a Docker contains a running instance of a Docker image. So every Docker instance, every Docker container has an image. And how did we get an image? We got an image from writing a Docker file. You understand? So this scenario really makes sense. Let me summarize it. So as if we want to build, you want to bake a cake. So you need a recipe book. So the recipe book, it's more like a Docker file, contains all the instructions needed to build the application. Then also after writing the instructions in the Docker file, then you have an image. So the image is like a pre-made cake. So once you follow the recipe, that's the Docker file, you have a pre-made cake. That's a Docker image. You understand? So let's continue. After creating, if I create my image, I can give my image to everybody, and if they run the image, they get a container. The container also has my application running a container. Yes, but let's go on. This is just a summary. Let's go on to this lab. Now we have the Docker file. So we've written our Docker file. These are all the dependencies needed to build the application. Expose it to 88, which means we can open the application at 88. Now, after writing this, now we've written an image. It's in a Docker file, right? This is a Docker file. But let's save it. Let's commit changes. I'm going to name it Docker file. Commit changes. So there are two ways of Dockerize application. We can use a Jenkins file. The Jenkins file contains all the steps. Or we can use a Docker file. The Docker file will also contain the step. But then the Jenkins file don't have the Jenkins file don't have all the steps here. But I have the steps written down here. I'm not done. So if I'm done writing all the steps, I'm going to put it in my Jenkins file. So, but then this lab is using Docker file, so don't worry about the Jenkins file. It doesn't contain. But then I just wanted to tell you there are two ways of Dockerize application. We can use the Jenkins file to build our CI/CD pipelines, or we can use a Docker file. So we are using Docker file now. We just created a Docker file. So the next thing is let's go back to our notes. So the next thing is we need to so what we've done is we created a Docker file, we forked the repository, we cloned the fork, and we created a Docker file. The next thing is we need to, we've done this. We navigate to our GitHub, we created a personal fork, we created a Docker file, we named the file Docker file, we included this information, we committed. Now we need to copy the URL for GitHub. Now this is the time to build a Docker image using the Docker file we created. So log into our class server. Let's log into that server. Now let's log into our server. Server production server. Password. Clear. So what we do first, the first thing is it says change home directory. So let's change our home directory cd. So we can change our home directory. The next thing it says we should do is clone your personal fork of the source code repository using the copy URL. So we need to copy our URL here. So cloning means we wanna integrate our GitHub to our server. So we need to clone. So git clone. Then we paste our server URL here. Enter. Now we need to make sure verify it's cloned. So we need to let's go to the next. It says change directory to a new folder. Now we need to change directory to a new folder. Say we need to cd into this directory. We're gonna use this command. Now we've done that. What it says we should do next is we need to verify our GitHub file exists. Yes. So all these are all the information in our GitHub. So the next thing it says we need to view contents of the folder. We're going to use the cast command. Yeah, so these are also the contents of our Docker file. So this is what we put in our Docker file. So we need to verify everything in our Docker file. We did that. So the next thing is we need to build the Docker file, but we need to name the Docker file, right? We need to name the Docker image, sorry. So sudo means giving permission to build our Docker file, but then we're going to name it, let's name it with GitHub username. So let me come here. Let me put it here first. My GitHub username is Kaka Hansen. After this, since I should put my password. Okay, so what it's now doing is building the Docker file we created. So we created our Docker file, and what this is doing is building the Docker file we created. So whilst it's doing that, let's see what it says you should do next. So we're going to run our Docker file or image we created on the port 8080. Let me copy this command. I'm gonna put it here. So I'm gonna edit that. So we named it Dr. Hansen. It's good to use your GitHub account name. Copy. So it's done building. So it says successfully built our Docker file. So the Docker file, like I said, has our image. So we built our image. Now we're going to do the next command. Let me see, get it here. So we're going to run our image on the port 8080. Yeah, so we run our image. So the next thing it says to do sudo docker ps means we are going to list and see if we have a container. Application is a container now. So so this is the container ID. Now we have a container. This is the container ID. This is the image we created. We named it Kaka Hansen, the image. And this is it was created 80 seconds ago. Our container is 17 seconds ago. So now I want to verify what it says is want to verify if we have an application. So we're going to copy the IP address of application. Copy. We're going to open that in port 8080. Sorry. Now we built our application. Now this application is running on a container. So this is a train app application we just created. So this is delayed, this is on time. In the history, so we can see the time the train is going to depart, if you're late or if you're on time. So we successfully deploy this application into a Docker container. That's all. So this is the steps to Dockerize application or how to deploy application into a container. So the reason why we say this application is a container is if we list Docker, if we did a Docker sudo Docker PS, it says it's a container ID, the image we created, this is it. So this is on a container on our Docker server. So that's all for this class. So we are learning beyond Docker, we are learning Docker. So in this class, we learn how to Dockerize application, the Docker file. The next class, we're going to learn how to Dockerize application with CI/CD pipeline. Thank you. See you.